Hello and welcome back. And today I wanted to talk about the Lord showed me something in the midst of my prayer time. And I didn't put it together. It was a series of events that occurred simultaneously, or shall I say, day after day after day after day, that I had to see the alignment in. So, about 4 days ago, I was in prayer with the Lord, and in the midst of the prayer, I was praying for a breakthrough for something in my life, and it had to do with me and my God ordained spouse. And as I started to pray for it, I was like, okay. And when I'm in my gung prayer mode, I'm like, look, I'm in the spirit taking things out. This when I've deciphered something that I need to pray for, I go directly for it. I don't play no games. And I went directly for a particular area. And it didn't dawn on me until the next day. I started to receive very specific type warfare. I've been in warfare for about 3 days now. Whatever. But with that being said, I was in prayer and I had turned on my worship music because I was trying to set the atmosphere. And when I was setting the atmosphere at this particular point in time, I had turned the television off because I normally do. That's the way the TV is right now. It's turned off. And I had set that, and something made me turn the TV back on and keep it on mute. And I looked at the television while I was sitting there in my prayer mode, and it was playing an old episode of Walker. And I was having a deja vu moment because what was happening in this particular episode was nearly identical to an episode of my show, Buffy, with the Cherokee Indian episode. And I was like, wait a minute, it's almost identical. But what drew my attention is this, and this is why I'm talking about it. I watched that episode on Sunday in the middle of the day. And I hadn't initially been paying attention to it, but he was having an experience where he was being pulled on in the spirit realm. Okay? And because he was being pulled on in the spirit realm, the literal Cherokee Indian, which was a spirit, was trying to do a ritual on his land. And he lived on a Cherokee Indian reservation. Okay? Follow me. That means there was more than likely an ancestral bondage of a generational curse attached to the land. And what was happening is that the Indian ghost, because it was supposed to be a ghost, was trying to perform a ritual to do something to bind this man in his sleep. Because the ghost would only come onto the property when he was sleeping to do this. And at first, I was like, okay, I'm sitting there, I'm just trying to keep the peace because my atmosphere has been all kind of hell what's going on. But at this particular moment, I'm paying attention to TV, and he keeps having the exact same dream. It's about him and who I would call his God ordained spouse, because this is the woman he ended up eventually marrying before the show went off. And when he married her, they had kids and so on and so forth. And what ended up happening is he was having the same dream over and over of her. Now, the one thing I did not do is I didn't listen. I wasn't looking at the TV. Meaning, I didn't have it on audio because I was in worship at the time, but I noticed that the dream played 2 to 3 times. He kept repeating the same dream, and I believe it was attached to a spirit of fear in relation to her, whether it was something was going to happen to her or a form of rejection to her, meaning she was going to reject him or vice versa. Now, this drew my attention because I was watching my show last night. I actually thought I had missed the episode, but the week before I was thinking to myself, wait, that episode doesn't come on until Monday. But on Friday, for some reason, I thought the episode came on as the second episode on Friday, but it didn't. It came on first episode last night. So I'm watching it. I had the audio off, and then as I'm watching it, I start to see a pattern. Both men were dealing with haunting dreams. They were being haunted, and both men in the episodes, were dealing with someone trying to use some form of magic or witchcraft to manipulate their dreams. Now, at first, I was sitting there thinking to myself, this is too coincidental that I saw both of these episodes within back to back, day to day. I'm like, no, this isn't coincidence. This is God wanted me to see something here, especially seeing it. I had just prayed about fear in my dream. In my prayer time the day before any of these episodes came on. And then on top of that, I was covering my spouse's dreams. And it was random that I thought to pray that within about 48 hours of these episodes. The first episode came on within about 12 to 18 hours of me praying that prayer over his dreams, and the second one within about 48. I was like, there's something to this. So it let me know that what a lot of people do not realize. One, if you're in spiritual warfare, especially if you're praying for your spouse, let me tell you something. Kingdom marriage ain't for the faint of heart. Please don't pray for a kingdom marriage if you're faint of heart and you don't know how to pray. Because if you don't know how to pray, kingdom marriage, word kingdom sounds cute. I know. It does. But if you ain't out here ready to war for this man, you need to sit down and figure out yourself first. I love you enough to say that to you. Because you got to realize what you're dealing with when you're praying. Okay? Okay? So, I'm sitting there, I'm in prayer. And I'm watching this episode, and I'm drawing parallels. Both men were dreaming. Both men were being attacked in their dreams. Both men were being manipulated through witchcraft through their dreams. Let me tell you something. If you do not know this, let me give you a little 101 on witchcraft. What the enemy will do is 9 times out of 10, when he realizes the female is the prayer warrior and the intercessor, coming after her is pretty much a mute point, because the second she discerns that you coming, the first thing she gonna do is start praying against you coming towards her and start hitting all the points. So what does the enemy do? He starts to circle in on your God-ordained spouse. Because of the covenant that you share with your God-ordained spouse, the attack that will hit him is going to spiritually cause confusion around you, and you sitting up there, why am I frustrated? Why am I going through this? Why is this happening? What the hell is this going on over here? Why is there all of this kind of confusion? I didn't do anything. What's this? Because it didn't come directly at you, so you didn't see it coming. But it came directly at them, and they wasn't looking for it anyway. So as soon as it hits them, they're like, oh, what is this? Oh my God, I don't know what. So this is the way the enemy works. He knows that if I come at her straight, she gonna block me. But if I circumvent and go to him, who isn't as spiritually aware as she is more than likely gonna let me in. Which thereby I can use him to delay her. I can use him to do whatever it is that I need to do, because he's not as spiritually aware. And when confusion starts happening to him, he's going to freak out. And if he's spiritually mature enough that he don't freak out, he's still going to delay to a degree, because he's going to get caught up in doubt, fear, confusion, all kinds of other stuff that's happening. And because she's not aware of how the enemy's hitting him, when it starts to hit her atmosphere, she's like, where's this coming from? Him. Him. That's where it's happening. So notice every time, especially if you're praying for a God ordained spouse, that when you're preparing and the Lord has already given you confirmation that something's about to transpire, all of a sudden you start feeling frustration right around the time that something's supposed to happen. Why? Not because it's happening to you, it's because it's happening to him. He's frustrated about something. You can't even tell what the world he's frustrated about, because you're not with him, which is one thing that the enemy loves, because it's like, oh, you got a middle wall of partition between the two of y'all. So because y'all got a middle wall of partition, I can torture him all I want to, and it's going to affect you because you can feel it, but you can't see what's happening. Let's just have this real conversation right here. And you're like, what the hell is happening? Then you have to start spiritually praying, meaning praying in tongues, in order to start breaking up the atmosphere over him, because you don't know exactly what it is that he's getting hit with. Because the enemy knows if he can't hit you, because if he comes directly at you, and I know this because number one effect that the enemy will do is two tactics that the enemy uses consistently. It's almost so consistent that it's stupid. What the enemy will do is he will try to do a splitting spell. And when I saw that episode, I was like, no, you're not trying that again. Because a splitting spell is a witchcraft spell where the enemy tries to, whoever's doing the witchcraft will try to cause a spirit of some type of spiritual veil. And I know the spiritual veil was attempted because of the fact that last night I had a dream and something was trying to get me to have a sexual experience with somebody who I knew wasn't my spouse in a dream. And I was like, I don't know what happened, because my dream's been a little bit confusing. Anytime you notice that your dream's been clear for a couple of days and then all of a sudden they start to get hazy and a whole bunch of weirdness starts happening. Even Tiffany Montgomery was talking about this the other day. She was saying that if you know that you can have dreams and God can come into, why do you think that the enemy can't get access to your dreams? He may not be able to have full control, but he can tamper. So when I had the experience, I'm like, oh, because what happens is and this is something that happened in the episode last night, that if you have sexual intercourse with your spouse in a dream, that affects your purity within your relationship spiritually and can delay you. 2, if you have sex with somebody else and you don't realize what's happening because it's a bunch of confusion going on in the dream, it actually creates a spiritual covenant to you that can mess your God ordained spouse up, because the connection is between you and your God ordained spouse, which thereby may put a veil over you, which can make it hard to be found, disrupt the purity of the connection between you and your God ordained spouse, and finally, open it up for a splitting spell, because once they have to do, Stephanie P. Smith did a video where she was talking about this, that in order to do a splitting spell, they have to do something to, what's the word she used? Camouflage, some type of camouflaging, where the person that's trying to do the splitting spell has to be able to embody your essence, to camouflage themselves, and then they have to split in the spirit, you and that person. It's a bunch of foolishness in order to cause confusion. And now that I'm seeing, and this was something that came to me while I was recording this, it's about tampering with the other person, because see, I happen to know, due to the type of praying that I've been doing, I have been hitting very specific spiritual walls in my God ordained spouse's life, cutting up some spiritual things in his bloodline, covenants, property, all that kind of stuff. I've been cutting down some things. And because I've been doing that, I know I've probably pissed off some spirits on his side that are probably desiring to sever our connection, that by creating a spiritual confusion to frustrate him, try to do a spiritual splitting spell. I also noticed I had a dream the other night where there were 2 versions of me. It was me and then a doppelganger that had a name similar to me, that looked similar to me, wearing a different outfit. And I was reminded of The Little Mermaid. And remember, in The Little Mermaid, that Ursula took on Ariel's image, just had a darker hair color, because the prince did not know who she was, because he didn't hear her voice. He heard her the first time he saw her, but he was unconscious. The second time he saw her, she could not speak. So he had the right girl, but Ursula had stolen her voice. So Ursula came in a similar body, just with darker hair, and tried to get the man to marry her instead. A lot of you may be, and this is probably why I saw it, that there may be a splitting spell that may be trying to reenact this. It's a bunch of stupidity, because I remember a while back I had done a whole bunch of spiritual warfare, and I ended up standing face to face with a particular person that I don't know whether it's the person or it's a spirit upon that person, but the person was operating, always is shown as being a danger, like in my dream. And this particular person said, oh, in this particular dream, she destroyed the covenant. Like, I had already destroyed all of the witchcraft covenant. I'd broken the curses pretty much. And they said, oh, now we're going to have to put them back. And I was like, what? So what I don't know is if it is happening right now, is if it's a level of, if I'm dealing with warfare because of the fact that the curse was broken, or the fact that the enemy is fighting to put it back. So I've just been in prayer about this. And I wanted to bring this attention to it because it's something that I'm noticing, and God wouldn't have brought my attention to it if it wasn't something I should have been addressing. So he brought my attention to it twice. So I wanted to bring that attention, that the devil don't ever stop doing them splitting spells, and don't ever stop doing. Seriously, it is something that they don't never stop doing, because the enemy does not want to see you with your God ordained spell. But the word states, what God has put together, what God has put together, what God has put together, let no man separate. Does it not also say in Isaiah 22:22 that what when God opens the door, no man can shut it? Ephesians 2:14, that when God pulls down the middle wall of partition between you and your God ordained spouse, is down. And I have been in intense prayer about this. So it would only make sense that the spirit of fear would come up now, because it's trying to push him back and push me back, so that neither one of us are trying to come towards one another. I wanted to address this and talk about this to you guys, because it very well may be a piece of warfare that may be happening to you as well. And I like to expose tactics, because I hate the enemy. So by the time you get this, it may not be a necessity, but I will have been past my warfare, but it's still a necessary piece of information that y'all need. So I hope this blesses you. So until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessings. Bye-bye.